Is your job search stuck? Maybe you're not getting any interviews with employers, or maybe you are, but no job offers. Or you may be new and not even know where to start. This is Charles Max Wood, and I'm releasing a new course and ebook on how to find a job as a software developer. The course walks you through the process of finding the types of companies you want to work for, getting their attention, and putting your best foot forward as the candidate they want. I've coached dozens of developers in looking for jobs and have been able to help several people find jobs within 2 weeks to 2 months. So whether you're new to development, can't find a great job that fits what you want, or are looking for remote work from an area without a strong tech community, I can help. Go to getacoderjob.com and sign up today. Hey everybody, and welcome to another My JavaScript Story. This week we're talking to Ben Hong. Ben, do you want to say hi?
Hey everybody.
Now, I opened this up and I let people know in the last few episodes to podcast listeners, and I've been getting some really, really interesting folks on to talk about things, and I think we're getting stories that we haven't heard before. Do you want to just give a brief introduction to who you are, and then we'll dive in and find out how you got into code and all that good stuff?
Yeah, that sounds great. So yeah, my name is Ben Hong, and I'm currently one of the lead front-end developers here at Politico.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I'm kind of a political junkie. I think people who have listened for a while kind of know where I stand on some of that stuff, but we'll see how that goes. I think it's interesting, though, just, in sort of an area that affects everybody. Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to see, what you've done and what you've learned over there. Let's back up, though, and talk about your background for a minute. How did you get into programming?
So I was one of those millennial kids who had a Zynga blog, LiveJournal, MySpace, you name it, and just sort of was hacking together themes and building stuff on GeoCities and Angelfire. And so, yeah, that's kind of where my origin story really starts.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I started programming on like a TI-85 calculator, but yeah, GeoCities and Angelfire were kind of how I got into web development too. What was it that kind of led you there? Was there somebody or something that kind of pushed you in that direction?
Not in particular. My dad happened to have an HTML book from O'Reilly, like one of the first ones, like kind of lying around. And so the way it was written was pretty accessible. And then it was one of those things where I just wanted to change something different with the theme, and then just, do a little bit of Googling, and it just kind of went from there. And then using things like Marquis Tags and just, things like that.
Ah, the good old Marquis Tag. Why don't we have that anymore?
I know. It's so sad.
I know. And the blink tag.
And the blink tag. There you go. That's the other one. Yeah, the goodies.
So you pick up the HTML book. Was there a particular website that you built that was kind of your first big project, or was it just fiddling around?
It was fiddling around, but I think the first one I could call, I tried looking for it before in the archives, but it was like a fortune cookie universe. And it was supposed to be like a universe of different flavored fortune cookies that you would go to. I'm really sad I can't find it anymore, but it would have been great to dredge that up.
Yeah, that's really sad. You'll have to recreate it.
Yeah, We'll probably give seizures to everybody though, with all the animated GIFs I had and Blink and Marquis Tags I had on there.
Yeah, about what time frame was this?
Say it was 93, 95, that time frame.
Yep. It sounds about right. I was a little later than that, doing that same kind of thing. But yeah, I remember, if you had a GIF that moved, it was like the coolest thing, and you had to have it on your website.
Yeah, dancing babies were such a big thing then too.
Oh yeah. So you get in, you start building these web pages. How do you go from there to something like JavaScript?
To be honest, JavaScript was actually the roadblock for me at the time because no one in my family knew actually programming. So when I got to the JavaScript point, I was like, oh, I need to know Java. And there was no one to correct me. And so I'm like, here I am in middle school trying to open a Java book and learn JavaScript. And it was just a massive failure. And it wasn't until much later on when I sort of wanted to get back in the field professionally in around the 2000 timeframe that I finally sort of got back into JavaScript.
Gotcha. So you did this for a little while and you took a break and then you came back?
Yeah, it was one of those things where like HTML and CSS came really easily to me. And so I thought it was always more of a hobby thing. And it wasn't until much later that I realized like, oh, people would pay you to do this kind of stuff. I thought anybody could do it, right? So what's the big deal? So that's kind of what pulled me back in. I was like, oh my God, I can do this for a living. This is awesome.
So at that point then, did you go to college? Did you just pick it up on your own?
Yeah, so I actually have a master's in industrial organizational psychology, so no computer science background whatsoever. So it was one of those, like, really enjoyed like the sort of human factor UX side of things, and I've always been sort of a tech junkie. And so then it was one of those sort of putting the pieces together and being like, oh, like I can do the coding with the UX. And that's sort of how I ended up with the front end piece of it.
Nice. So kind of take us through your journey through JavaScript. I mean, I remember back in the early 2000s with Scriptaculous and Prototype, and then we had jQuery. And what trajectory did your career follow?
Yeah, so I think like most people, I actually started out as well with the jQuery piece of it. Because I think originally when JavaScript first came out, again, I had that misconception that I needed Java. And so it wasn't until like the jQuery framework that I sort of really started to wrap my head around what JavaScript was supposed to do. And just it had sort of simplified the syntax, so I didn't need to worry about all the different variations that were required for browsers and those sort of things. And so that's what really sort of got me through like the initial hurdle of like, oh, what JavaScript does. And then from that point on, it was that was also around the time where client-side frameworks started getting popular as well. So just through the process of trial and error of trying to get into React and Angular, it's just sort of kept hacking together the JavaScript skills to kind of get to where I am today.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you mentioned some of the more recent front-end frameworks. Did you play with any of the older ones like Ember or Backbone or Knockout or things like that on your way up? Or did you just jump right on the right bandwagon and kind of get into Angular or React when they came out?
Yeah, I did some Ember. I had briefly touched on Knockout at the time, but I think at the time I was also looking to Ruby on Rails. So Ember was sort of I think the parallel to that. So that's where sort of my first interactions with client-side frameworks were.
Gotcha. So what was it then that kind of brought you into a professional programming situation? I mean, you mentioned you have a master's degree in organizational psychology. I didn't quite remember all of the right words in the right order.
No, you're good.
but how do you go from getting a master's degree in that to go, you know what, forget all that, I'm going to do programming?
Yeah. So basically, with the organizational psychology, one of the specialties is human factors, which is basically like user experience with a psychology spin. And so from there, it was about I sort of saw myself as I'll be a UX designer, but then I was also really good at the coding side. So it was one of those, when I wanted to merge the two together, I realized that I really enjoyed learning the coding piece of it, but applying the UX skills that I had learned from psychology and focusing on users and those things. And so from there, it was just a matter of just piecing the two together to get the right balance of consulting and UX while also helping to build things.
Yep. So you start picking that up. What was that career change like? I mean, did you graduate with your master's degree and then go straight to programming, or did you try other things first?
Yeah, so I actually went into the federal government first and actually worked for NIH as just a human resource specialist.
Okay.
This was right around the time of the recession. So as far as my family was concerned, they were really happy for me to have a stable job. But for me, I was sort of bored out of my mind and was really looking for a challenge. So, sort of against their wishes, I ended up while I was working for the government, I just kept hacking together portfolios and trying to find an opportunity, foot in the door to prove myself, and got my first private contracting gig with the federal government. And then, so that's how I got in there, and then just sort of ever since then been building my way up.
Nice. So what were you building for the federal government?
So at the time, I was working on Medicare.gov. And then I got brought on to healthcare.gov as well, but I like to always emphasize that I was brought on after the initial launch. So I was brought on to help fix it. So important point there. So.
Yeah, we won't use the words disaster, but the initial launch didn't go well. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it.
Interesting. So what's it like at the same time? I mean, I think most programmers, they get into programming and they pretty much get the idea of open source, and they understand contributing to a project out of passion. And then they also understand working for a corporation. But working for the government's got to be a little bit different. Yeah,
I will say that was one of the things when I made the transition to Politico. The federal government is definitely a different space as far as the fact that there are just far more stakeholders and politics sort of going on with any decision that's being made. And so, whereas at corporate companies, you generally have some sort of product that you're pushing. With federal government, it was a lot more about who owned the content and how many people do you need to talk to in order to get certain things approved. And so it was definitely really different working for the government as opposed to sort of where I am now, where it's a lot more product oriented.
Gotcha. So how did you wind up making the transition over to Politico then?
So I had done a fair number of government contracts, including like NASA. And so after a while, as any good developer, you kind of want to diversify the problems that you're solving. And so for me, at least the federal government contracts I was working on, they started to feel like the same problem over and over again. And so since in the DC area here, outside of federal government contracting, we actually have a fair number of media companies here. So when the opportunity for Politico came around, it sounded like a great opportunity to tackle sort of a new space.
Gotcha. So have you been there from the beginning, or was this something, you found a job opening? I mean, how did that happen?
Yeah, so basically I got reached out to by one of the recruiters that sort of mentioning that they were looking for front-end developers. And so through that just started the whole recruitment process and chatted with the team and came on board about 2 years ago.
Awesome. And you're the front-end lead there now. So what did that transition look like?
Yeah, so when I first joined the team, we were only five-member large, including my supervisor. So basically there were like 2 designers and then 1 like JavaScript guru, and then the 2 of us who kind of full stack, quote unquote, with the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And so since then we've grown to, with contractors now we're like 15, 18 people now. And so it's been pretty crazy having the team scale. And there's been a lot of different problems that have arisen and new challenges that have come up as a result. But it's been pretty fun so far.
That makes sense. I'm a little curious. How does Politico see itself? Do you consider yourself a media company or sort of a news organization, or how do you look at yourselves over there?
Yeah, so I think most of the people know Politico primarily as a news organization, right, with the newspaper. But we also have a completely different arm, Politico Pro, which is more of a information as a service product side. And so that's actually the side I've been working a lot closer with over the last couple of years. And so there we offer sort of like cutting edge updates as far as like legislative updates. If you're the kind of person that needs like campaign like voting data and those sort of things, we try to provide that in such a way that we provide up-to-date political information to you as a service. And so people pay like an actual subscription to be a part of that product line.
Yeah, I really haven't looked too much into Politico. I'm also curious, though, does the company try and paint itself as leaning one way or the other, or mostly nonpartisan, or how does that all work out?
Yeah, based on what I understand, we try to, our reporting is supposed to be objective and nonpartisan, from my understanding. But I mean, on the tech side, we don't really get into those pieces as much.
Right. Yeah, I kind of figured. I hesitated a little bit to ask because sometimes a lot of those questions get directed to a PR or something.
Sure.
but yeah, so I'm also curious then, how does the company's mission and objectives, how does that bleed into what you do and how you approach your job?
I would say for the most part, most of the time, by the time the products get down to us, for us as a technology, the tech department, at least at my level, we're about sort of solving the problem. So usually by the time I get to it, it's more about like, okay, we want to have this new product. What is the best route to solving it? So, I was responsible for helping to pioneer like client-side frameworks here, because in the past we were doing more everything like server-side rendered, just like old school JSPs. And so sort of bringing in the Vue framework into the tech stack, sort of helping to update the front-end stack has been a lot of my role here.
JSPs. Gotta love it, man.
Yeah.
So what's your technology stack over there at Politico?
Yeah, so obviously the base technologies of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but then Vue.js is our framework of choice. And so we do have, we also have a pro app that I helped to build that's built on React Native. And then otherwise our backend is primarily like Java, and we're using like the Spring Boot framework. And we've been using experimenting with different technologies, GraphQL and those sort of things as well.
Very cool. We should probably see about getting you on the Views on Vue podcast to just talk about how you're using Vue over there at Politico.
Oh yeah, I would love to. That would be great.
That would be fun. So are there things that you work on outside of work, or are you mostly focused on the issues that you encounter at work?
Yeah, so outside of work, I actually help to run the Vue DC meetup, so this centralized meetup, and then also helping to coordinate all the Vue meetups around the world. So vuemeetups.org, I'm the founder of that, and helping the core team to help manage that as well. So doing a lot of community outreach as far as helping the people who are interested in the front end community and who want to learn more about it. Because I know, as you probably know, most of us are usually liberal arts majors without any computer science training. And so it's nice to have the community there to help you out as you're navigating those waters.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how many people are coming in from different backgrounds, especially now that we're seeing sort of an explosion in the amount of information and the number of apps that are going out there, either mobile or web apps in particular. And yeah, so we're pulling people from all kinds of backgrounds.
Yep, that we are.
Yep. I am definitely not one of those liberal arts majors. I actually have a degree in computer engineering.
Good for you, sir.
Yeah, I did electrical engineering and then I switched because computers were more interesting. But
yeah,
it's definitely interesting to see the different perspectives in the field and where people are coming in and just how little or how much it takes to get somebody, I guess, ready to contribute.
Sure.
Like some people, they do a little bit of work and then they just kind of get it. And then other people, they'll go through a boot camp and then they have to basically struggle with it for a year and then they're ready to contribute. And it's just interesting to see the different journeys that people go through to get there.
Absolutely.
So what are you working on now?
So currently I'm still just continuing to help the Vue community build out its meetup population. And then otherwise, just trying to further our work here within Politico as far as like how we're using Vue, sort of finally creating like a design system and the reusable component pattern libraries and those sort of things.
Makes sense. Now, if you're creating reusable components, I'm assuming that's across multiple projects?
Yep, that's correct.
Are those open source or are those internal only?
At this point, they're internal only. One of the things we are discussing is whether or not, like, what pieces of it to open source as far as the design piece. But I feel like we definitely will. I'm looking to probably give a couple of talks at conferences as far as like how we approach this whole problem set within Politico. So definitely something coming to a show near you soon, hopefully.
Awesome. Yeah, it's just been interesting, especially in like the React and Angular communities. Different companies have come out and basically open sourced their component tool. Mm-hmm. And I haven't seen that as much in Vue, but I figure it's just a matter of time with the level of adoption it's getting. So,
sure.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, if people want to find you online, where do they go?
Yeah, they can find me on all the Internet of Things under Ben Codezen, BenCodezen. And they're more than welcome to reach out to me regarding questions, whether it's running meetups or have Vue-related questions. Happy to talk to them.
Awesome. I'm a little curious. Do you have some advice for people who are either coming into the field or who have been doing this for a while as far as, joining organizations and being contributors, especially since you're the front-end lead over there?
Yeah, I would say for those who are new, I think a lot of it is just attending those meetups and making the connections, because I think a lot of people don't realize just how welcoming the community is as far as helping you navigate the waters. And even within the realm of front-end development, there's so many specialties that you can get into, and it's just really about figuring out those problems that you like solving, and then having people who are veterans of the community figure out how to get you to that point. So whether it's like D3 or SVGs, helping you get to that point. So yeah, definitely the community is there for you, and definitely a resource you don't want to miss out on.
Yeah, that's very much in line with the advice that I give out. I've been writing a book on how to find a job as a programmer. And the advice that I give is basically have your resume updated and then go to the meetups and make sure you're contributing to GitHub every day.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, I mean, that's right in line. And yeah, if you're going to the meetups, you'll get the feedback you need. And a lot of times you'll make the connections that help you get that.
Exactly. Yep. Totally agree.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and do some picks. Do you have some things you want to shout out about on the show?
Do you run your own freelance business? Or maybe you're thinking about picking up some business on the side? Well, then you need FreshBooks. FreshBooks is the quickest and easiest way to get invoices out to your clients. It's easy to use. It works anywhere, available from any device, on the desktop, iPhone, iPad, Android, and all of your data is backed up and secure. And it makes it really easy to get organized and get paid. You'll be tracking time, logging expenses, and invoicing your clients in no time. You can also save time billing, freeing up several days per month to focus on the work that you love, and you get paid faster. FreshBooks customers are paid on average 5 days faster because there's a link on the invoice that says pay me now. And it's a great way to grow your business. Plus, FreshBooks is offering a 30-day trial. That's right, 30-day trial if you try them out. So go to gofreshbooks.com/devchat and enter DevChat in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Once again, for a 30-day trial, go to gofreshbooks.com/devchat and enter DevChat in the How Did You Hear About Us section.
Yeah, so there's a couple conferences coming up. There's Connect Tech in Atlanta, Georgia. I'll be giving a workshop on animation fundamentals with Vue.js there, and Vue Toronto as well. So that's coming up in the next couple months.
Nice. Yeah, some awesome events. I need to make it out to some more of the Vue events.
Yeah, they're really great. I'll be going to London actually tomorrow, so that'll be fun.
Awesome. What's in London?
There's the Vue London. It's going on this week.
Gotcha.
Yep.
I'm going to do a couple of shout outs. The first one is Framework Summit. It's the beginning of October. I think this episode goes out right during it. So anyway, if this is a pick too late, I'm sorry. I didn't check the schedule for the release before I said it. But it's either going to be awesome or it was awesome. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's in Park City, Utah, which is about 30 to 40 minutes from my house.
That's awesome.
Yeah, going to be going up there and hanging out with Vue core team members and React and Angular, Ember, Elm. Who else do they have coming? They have a whole bunch of others coming just to talk about the various frameworks. So it should be pretty exciting just to go and see what people are doing. I'm also incidentally going to be at Microsoft in Ignite next week as we record this. Obviously, that one will be over by the time this goes live. But I do wind up talking to a few people that build like Visual Studio Code and things like that. So if you're interested, go look at JavaScript Jabber's feed. There should be a bunch of stuff there that's pretty relevant to JavaScript developers in general. And then one other thing that I'm just going to shout out about is codebadge.org, which is a new thing that I'm working on to help people stay current and give them ideas on what they can do to keep up on their skills. So, and you get badges for doing it, so people can see what you've explored, what you've worked with, and things like that. So I think that'll be a lot of fun. And incidentally, I'm building that with Vue and Elixir awesome. Phoenix on the back end. So
very cool.
All right. Well, thank you for coming, Ben.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode, and we will catch you all next week.
Bandwidth for this segment is provided by CacheFly, the world's fastest CDN. Deliver your content fast with CacheFly. Visit CACHEFLY.com to learn more.